Hello everyone and welcome back to Tales by Amir, where real emotions meet unforgettable stories. If you love stories that touch your heart and keep you thinking long after they end, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Today's story is about a woman who lost her only son and then, when she was at her weakest, was betrayed by the very person she thought she could trust the most. But what happened later will truly show you that karma always comes around, even when you least expect it. My name is Eleanor. I'm 68 years old, and I thought I had seen everything life could throw at me. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened 2 years ago. I lost my only son, Michael, in a tragic car accident. He was only 39, successful, kind, and the kind of son every mother dreams of having. Michael had built a life I was so proud of. He had started a tech company from scratch, and over the years it became incredibly successful, worth over $100 million. He was generous, too. Always helping others, donating to charities, and making sure I never lacked anything. When he married Emma 5 years ago, I was so happy. She was beautiful, smart, and at first, so respectful. She always called me, Mom, and visited every week. I treated her like the daughter I never had. I really thought we were close. But after Michael's death, everything changed. The day of the funeral was the hardest day of my life. I could barely stand. I remember standing near his coffin, holding his picture, feeling like my entire world had ended. But even then, I noticed something strange about Emma. While everyone was crying, she stood there cold, her eyes red but dry. I thought maybe she was just in shock. After the funeral, I stayed at Michael's house for a few days because I couldn't bear to go home. It felt empty without him. Emma seemed distant, but I didn't think much of it. I was grieving, and maybe she was too. Then one morning, as I was drinking my tea, she came into the kitchen with a serious look on her face. "Eleanor," she said, "we need to talk about the will." My heart sank. It had only been 2 weeks since Michael's passing. The last thing I wanted to think about was money or property. "Emma, can we please talk about this later?" I said softly. "I just can't handle it right now." But she insisted. "It's important. The lawyers contacted me. Michael's assets are being transferred, and I need to know what your plans are." My plans? What did she mean by that? She looked me straight in the eye and said, "Michael left everything to me. The company, the house, the accounts. Everything. He made me the sole heir." I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. "That can't be true," I said. "He always told me he wanted to make sure I'd be taken care of." She shrugged. "Maybe he changed his mind." That night, I cried harder than I ever had. I wasn't thinking about money, I just couldn't understand how my son, who loved me so much, could leave me with nothing. But as the days passed, I discovered even more cruelty. One afternoon, Emma came into my room and said coldly, "I think it's time you move back to your own house. I need space." I looked at her in disbelief. "Emma, I don't have anywhere else to go right now. My house was sold last year when Michael said it would be easier for me to stay here after my surgery." She just smiled faintly. "Well, that's not my problem. I'm sorry, Eleanor, but I can't live with you anymore." I packed my bags slowly, my hands shaking. I couldn't believe that the woman I had loved like my own daughter was throwing me out just weeks after my son's funeral. I moved into a small rented room near the outskirts of the city. It was cold, damp, and lonely. I had a few savings left, but I didn't know how long they'd last. Meanwhile, I heard that Emma had sold Michael's company for $55 million. The same company my son had built from scratch. She was everywhere in the news, smiling, attending events, living lavishly. While I, his mother, lived quietly, forgotten. Months passed. I started volunteering at a local shelter just to distract myself. The people there were kind, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was doing something meaningful again. Then one cold evening, about 7 months later, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, I froze. It was Emma. She looked nothing like the woman I remembered. Her hair was messy, her eyes were swollen from crying, and she seemed exhausted. "Eleanor," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Please, I need your help." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to shut the door. But the mother in me, the part that Michael had raised to be kind, couldn't. I stepped aside and let her in. Once she sat down, she broke into tears. "They took everything," she said. "All the money. It's gone." I was confused. "What do you mean?" She explained that after she sold the company, she had trusted a man she was seeing to help her invest the money. They started a business together, a luxury fashion brand, but it turned out he was a fraud. He had forged documents, drained her accounts, and disappeared. She was now broke, in debt, and her mansion had been seized by the bank. She had nowhere else to go. I sat there silently, remembering how she had looked at me the day she threw me out, cold and heartless. "Why are you here, Emma?" I asked quietly. She wiped her tears and said, "Because I have no one else. I know I was horrible to you, Eleanor. I don't deserve your help, but I'm begging you. Please, let me stay here until I figure things out." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Every part of me wanted to say no. But then, I remembered Michael. He wouldn't have wanted me to turn her away, no matter what she had done. So I nodded slowly. "You can stay. But only for a little while." The first few days were awkward. She barely spoke, and I didn't push. I could see she was trying, though. She helped with chores, cooked dinner, and even joined me at the shelter once. One night, as we sat together drinking tea, she finally said, "Eleanor, I don't know how you can forgive me. I took everything from you." I looked at her and said softly, "You didn't take everything. You took the money, yes. But you can't take love, or memories, or kindness. Those are things that survive loss." She started crying again. "I wish I had realized that before," she said. "I thought money would make me happy. But it destroyed me." Time went on, and slowly, Emma began to change. She started volunteering full-time at the shelter and found peace in helping others. For the first time, I saw genuine humility in her eyes. A few months later, she found a job at a small local business. She wasn't rich anymore, but she was content. One afternoon, she handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $25,000. "I managed to sell some jewelry I still had," she said. "It's not much, but it's yours. I owe you more than I can ever repay." I smiled and handed the check back. "Keep it," I said. "Use it to rebuild your life. You already gave me what I needed most, peace." Tears rolled down her cheeks as she hugged me tightly. Years later, people still ask me how I could ever forgive her. And I tell them the same thing every time. Holding onto anger doesn't bring back what you've lost. It just keeps you in pain. Emma and I are still close today. We share dinners, talk about Michael, and honor his memory together. I believe that in some way, my son brought her back to me, not as a daughter-in-law, but as a person who finally learned what true wealth means. True wealth isn't money, property, or status. It's compassion, forgiveness, and the ability to start over, no matter how far you've fallen. I'll never forget the day Emma came back to my door, broken and ashamed. Because that was also the day I realized something important about life. Even when people hurt you deeply, showing mercy doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong enough to heal. When I look back now, I still miss Michael every single day. But I know he'd be proud. Proud that instead of letting pain turn me bitter, I chose to let love win in the end. And sometimes, that's the greatest victory life can give us. Thank you for listening to this story. If you were touched by it, please don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Tales by Amir for more stories that remind us that even in the darkest times, humanity and hope can still shine through. Until next time, stay kind, stay strong, and remember, every ending can also be a new beginning.